Well, howdy everyone. It's your boy. Okay, stop being weird right now. Don't worry. I will surely return to being weird momentarily.
I promise.
Okay, so anyway, so desperation is this theme that I see happening within, I would say, a lot of communities of particular groups of people such as colored people. Right? So there's this idea of desperation. Desperation is the gateway to oblivion. You've heard me talk about this before on some other shows that I have, but I really wanted to hone in on desperation. Desperation is one of the most insidious little things that you can possibly fall into in your entire life. Okay? So think back at a time when you were in desperation. You were just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And there are things that you did during that desperate time that you swore that you would never do, right? There's things that you were being like, I'll never do that, and you got desperate and you did it, And you knew it was outside of God. You knew it was just outside of your personhood, but you did it because you got desperate. So what if I were to tell you that there is a whole system trying to keep you desperate? Okay, I'm gonna stop being dramatic with the camera angles. Anyway, so I just think it's funny. Anyway, but what if there's an entire system that is actually meant to keep you desperate? And I would say that is the black church. Have you ever noticed how there's a church in African American neighborhoods on like every corner? And so when people are like, especially for the men, they're like, bruh, I'm not going to church. Why? Because it doesn't lead to anything. I don't see the impact on my neighborhood. I don't see the impact on the people who even go there. So why am I going to the church? And then they sit there and tell them that, oh, you're lost and everything. Yes, true. They are lost.
But they're not crazy.
So there is this struggle with them that they are dealing with. They want to get closer to God, but they see no power. Maybe it's designed that way. And I'm not even advocating for the idea that there are a group of people with shadowy that are trying to keep you desperate. However, the mindset never seems to allow you to actually thrive. It always seems to be this idea of keeping you desperate. No matter how much money you make, no matter how much progress you have, no matter how much freedom that you've been given, you always seem to get this centralized message of desperation. Now, here's the problem with desperation. The problem with desperation is that there are gatekeepers who are right by the door of a possible solution to your desperate situation. Meaning that there are gatekeepers of opportunity to get you out of your desperate situation. So then, there is the question of, hey, I know you're desperate. I know you want to get out of this situation, but how bad do you want to get out of this situation? You're right? Like, how bad do you want to get out of the situation? How bad do you really want this? And then you say how bad you want it, and then they tell you to prove it, And wouldn't it make more sense to keep maybe a not respected group of people desperate all the time? And what if some of the quote unquote churches that they were going to would preach to them the same desperation so that they could zero in and continue to be fed into a system, and a system of not within necessarily governmental, but maybe just private. Maybe there's a bunch of private institutions that benefit from a desperate group of people. Now, what if your supposed church is teaching you desperation at whatever financial level that you happen to be in? And what if some of those churches take advantage of your desperation also? Sow this and you'll get, as if God is that transactional. How dare you? Boy, anyway. It's one thing if God is personally telling you, to sow into a ministry. It's another saying that God is going to do this if you sow it. That's wild. And if he did say it, that might be one thing, obviously. And if he didn't say it and you said that you said it, well, you just lied on the Spirit. And oh, have mercy on you, homie. Have mercy on you. So this black church seems to always, when the highest levels, seems to always advocate for you being desperate. You know? Oh, they're going to try to keep you down. Who's they? Could be some private institutions that are keeping you down. Private institutions that do practice the occult and do not respect you and do want to keep you down and oppressed so that you begin to make more contracts with their demons. They're out there. Music industry is a big one. Obviously, music industry is a big one. And to say that it's not, you're not paying attention. You are not paying attention. Hollywood is another big one, but nowhere close to music. If I did have to say that there was a entity that was really were oppressing you, would definitely be the music industry. But what prepares you to be cannon fodder for the music industry? I think when your preacher is preaching at you desperation all the time and how they're trying to oppress you and get at you and this, that, and the third all the time, I think that might be a place where you're getting some of this information from that is keeping you desperate, and you're spiritualizing it. You are actually spiritualizing being desperate and saying it's a great thing. There are moments of desperation coming towards the end of yourself where God can intervene. And then there is a mindset where you are always desperate and the enemy is taking full advantage of that. There's a difference between those ideas. God is going to lift you out of a situation. Why? So that once you are lifted up, you become that light, that beacon for someone else to be lifted out of their situation. Out of the situation. And there's going to be times where God's going to remove certain things from you that you thought that you needed, and it's going to cause pain and panic and things like that. However, God does restore. He restored even Job after he had to pull back and show how God actually works so that we would know how God works and that he's not transactional, right? He brings attention back to himself because he can handle it, and eternity is in his attention. So he doesn't want to put it on you. He wants to put it on him. It's a difference. So if your church is speaking about black issues all the time, saying that they're coming out to get you, they're going to do this to you, I don't think you've been to church yet. See, there's a difference between black church and then there's the church of Christ. Black church profits and wants to keep you in that same position so that not only do they benefit, but the entities, the private entities, then also benefit and say that, hey, I heard that you're desperate. I heard that you really, really, really want to get into this position.
How bad do you want to get in?
And after that, you are subject to their tyranny, their gods, their goddesses, and then you are into a real bad time. And I'm telling you right now, the politicians also want you desperate. Why? Because you will keep on voting for the solution to your desperation. And if you haven't noticed, you're voting for a particular party for the past 40, 50 some odd years ain't led to nothing. Why? Because it was never the politician's job to do your assignment. It's your job. Oh, God can send someone else. Some things, not everything. That's why he asked you to do it. That's why he brought it to your attention. That's why he brought it to your table. That's why he brought it to your family. Probably because I made you for a time such as this. But you want to keep on depending on the pastor and the preachers to do your assignment. Then you get mad at them for not doing your assignment. And it's like, okay, well, that doesn't really work out. You're mad at me because I didn't do your assignment. I'm doing my assignment best as I can. I ain't got time to do yours also. I'm not even called to do yours. I don't even know you to do yours. I promise you. That's why it ain't been done yet. So you can keep on trying to vote for a politician to do your assignment. It ain't going to happen. That's why it never has happened. Sorry. That politician might have his own assignment. You going to put more on him than God's going to put on him? Probably not. Probably not. So as you continue to vote for this stuff, it keeps you desperate. The church is supposed to take you by the hand, or by the throat, no, I was kidding. But it's about to take you by the hand and lead you into the assignment of God. Then you'll be in covenant relationship with him because you'll have to continuously look towards him in order to supply and be supplied with everything that God is asking you to be supplied with, so that you may be about the assignment that God has for you, and you be the change in your neighborhood, or you be the change for that group of people, or you be the change for that person or family member, or you be the change for that industry, whatever that calling may be. I'm telling you right now, God is going to supply that if you are being obedient and listening to him and accomplishing that in the way that he is speaking to you in real time based on his word. That's what's going to happen. You're going to be desperate, if anything, for more of him, because you know that you can't do it, because you know you're a doofus. You know you're this way. You know you're this way. So, it is good for you to realize your limitations so that you can say, God, I need help with this because I can't do this. He said the same thing. Moses said the same thing. He's like, I'm slow of speech. I have a speech impediment. I can't do this. I can't do that. God, please send someone else. And God got aggravated and said, stop it. You're the one. I might supply Aaron to talk for you from time to time, but you're the guy. I made you for this. Stop telling me that I don't know what I'm doing. God had to shut that down. And I pray that God shuts that down in your life. You desperately inviting the devil into your life and inviting the devil into your neighborhood and your family and everybody else. Why? Because you're desperate for someone else to do your assignment? Stop it. There's not a black church or a white church or whatever else. There's a racial Church of Christ. And there's not a black church in terms of this occultic thing that's keeping you oppressed simply so it can benefit, so you become desperate and go out there and do a bunch of stuff that you ain't had no business doing, and letting the solution that God has stored in you go by the wayside. At a certain point in time, you got to stop that. At a certain point in time, you got to quit. You got to sit there and step up to the plate and say that, here I am, Lord, send me. I'm telling you, if your church is not supplying and directing traffic back to God, if your church is not supplying you with the spiritual food, not feeding you like a baby, but tell you where to look in scripture, tell you how to hear from God, tell you how to discern from the elders and the other old heads that are sitting there telling you, hey, this is what I had to go through in order to get to where I am with God and my assignment. If your church is full of this, people will just say, I'm going to vote for so-and-so on the Democrat side because that's what I'm trying. They're going to take care of my assignment. Come now. Let's not be completely insane. Sanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So please, by the mercies of God, by the mercies of God, I want you to go inside of the Church of Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, please, and stop being desperate and start taking land as in bringing heaven down to earth as it is in heaven. That's Jesus' prayer. There needs to be some spiritual warfare done instead of all this carnal stuff to keep you desperate, to keep you fed into private industries that are literally killing us as an entire people group. It ain't the church on the corner necessarily. No, let me rewind that back. It ain't the church. The Church of Christ, strong, faithful, and Jesus is coming for that beautiful bride. These spinoffs, these remixes, this black church that you're talking about, that's what people have a problem with. And that's why people are like, hey, I wouldn't go to church, they just want your money. I don't think they just want your money, but they do want your desperation. Black church wants your desperation. Nah, you should be doing better. You should be doing better because why? Because God's supplying the things that you need in order for you to thrive and take land and take jurisdiction over from the camp of the enemy to the camp of the kingdom. It's biblical, ain't it? It may not look the way that you think it might look, because Jesus was on the cross and he was still gaining territory for the kingdom. A whole planet's worth, right? I'm not sitting there saying that it's going to be easy or simple, or that you're going to be sitting there, having money shoot out your pockets and everything. Even if you do have money shooting out your pockets, it's God's money. You pray and ask him what to do with it. Ain't your money. And God is great, and God is full of grace. He might be like, go ahead and have a little fun, but make sure you keep it focused around me. Because maybe even in that fun, he might introduce you to someone, and you might tell that person about his kingdom. He's good. He's good. He's really good. So, by the mercy of God, please, I'm going to need you to be about God's business. Truly. I'm going to need you to be about his business, because we can't keep going back into a desperate situation over and over again. It's killing us, literally. When you try to depend on politicians and vibes to get you out of desperation, it's not a thing. It's not. And we can't keep doing this thing where you keep on just going back to the same well that is obviously poisoned. I want you to pray about what church that you need to go to, and I want you to go there. That's what I want you to do. And it may not be that big of a church. Maybe you're supposed to help build them. It may be a big old church. It's like, oh, that's mega churches, blah, 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 blah. Well, maybe you just need to sit there and get fed and get your ego starved. Maybe you don't need to do anything in that big old church. I'm just saying, I let God do what he's going to do with me and through me. And I don't always anticipate it's going to be easy. I do anticipate it's going to be good, whether I like it or not, and whether I recognize that goodness or not. Because the fun thing is that at the end of the day, I don't know what good is. So I know about it, but as far as goodness, the only good that I know is the good that is revealed through him. That's all that I know. And that's all that I can know. I'm in a fallen world, been born into iniquity. I don't know nothing about goodness. That's why I get mad at God sometimes, because I'm like, how is this good? Well, how do I know what good even is? Other than the standard that he set in his word. Otherwise, I wouldn't even know what that is. But anyway, that's my time. I do want you to not go into a situation of desperation, because there's gatekeepers there who are there to kill, steal, and destroy. At a certain point in time, you've got to wise up and not fall into desperation and act like you're benefiting somebody or something. And that black church will keep you desperate at any level that you are. I mean, be in bondage to that desperation. And if you're in bondage to that desperation, you're in bondage to the world and everything in it. Be a bondservant of Christ. Go towards the word and take care of what God has asked you to take care of through his spirit, through his power, by his agenda, in Jesus' name. All right. Love y'all. Catch y'all on the remix. Toodles.